Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel, Knee Knits. My name is Amy. Here we talk about all things knitting in this YouTube channel. Today we have a podcast and it's podcast number 9. Wow, I am soon going to run out of fingers to count the number of podcasts we've done, but welcome back. Again, like I said before, my name's Amy. I knit and we talk about knitting here. Today we have a regular podcast. I put these out every 2 weeks where I talk about what I've been knitting, including some finished objects, my works in progress, and we also talk about any yarn, supplies, or future plans that I have upcoming or that I have acquired in the past few weeks. So I'm so glad you're joining here. I feel the spring in the air. It's been sort of off and on weather here in Massachusetts. We've had some warm days. We've also had some really cold days still, but I'm definitely feeling the spring bug and getting in the spring mood, which is awesome. So first, I'll just quickly go over what I'm wearing. Today, I'm wearing my shift cowl. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, also known as Drea Rennie Knits. I knit this shift cowl with 3 different colors of Shopple Wool Edition 3. It's their self-striping barber pole style yarn. All of the yarn colors I don't remember, but my project page for the Ravelry project is going to be linked below, as well as anything else I discuss in today's video, so feel free to check that out if you want more details. I really do love this cowl. I think the color play is just beautiful, the stitching, the mosaic knitting, it's just lovely, and I want to get more wear out of it, so I think it'll be a nice transitional piece, and I'm glad I got to wear it today. So today I do have one small finished object. Since the last time we spoke, I had talked about making these mittens. So these are the world's simplest mittens. It is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits, and it's a really nice free pattern because it has directions for weight, sizes, fingering through worsted. I believe they might even include bulky. So these are a worsted pair of self-striping mittens. The yarn I use is Knit Picks Felici worsted in the color Vegas Baby, which just has all these really beautiful brights, like these bright blues and greens and pinks. And yeah, so the yarn is self-striping, so all of this I just knit flat, or I knit straight, and it made these beautiful block stripes. I think because of the small diameter of the mittens, it really accentuated the color striping because you have these big blocks, which I think are really cute. So for these mittens, I made the size adult small. So it said that the adult small will fit a hand circumference of 7 inches. So I measured my hand circumference right around the widest point around here, and I measured 7 inches. And so it produced these mittens, which look a little small. They might look a little small to you. They are a little small to me, so I'll put them on and show you what I mean. You can see here, like, the ribbing's pretty tight. You definitely gotta, like, work your hand in there. I think the finished mitten dimension is exactly 7 inches, so it has, like, 0 inches of ease around my hand. If I had known that the 7-inch mittens were gonna literally be 7 inches, then I probably would have sized up, although these are pretty comfortable. They are a little tight. You can kind of see my hands are like right at the edges in there. I haven't gotten a chance to wear these in like a practical sense because by the time I finished them, we hadn't really had mitten weather, but I'm excited to use these next winter. I did do some yarn surgery with the self-striping yarn to get these stripes to match. So you can see here, I think I did a pretty good job. There is this little one singular, like, darker pink stripe at the bottom. I don't know why I didn't just start, this is the cast on edge, and I didn't just start with this lighter pink. I like had one row of this like magenta pink. So that's a little annoying to me, which I think is just like a funny part of these mittens. But I'm really happy that I got the stripes to match. I think they're really cute. And I saw Knit Picks website doesn't have this color anymore, and then their Felici worsted, they all had like the tag that said goodbye on them, so I don't know if they're discontinuing this yarn. It is a 75-25 superwash yarn, so superwash merino and then 25% nylon, very soft. They should be machine washable, and I really enjoyed knitting them. If anything, I would say the yarn was like maybe a little bit splitty, but other than that, I enjoyed this quick little project. It was a nice palette cleanser from all of the sweaters that I've been working on. All right, now we're gonna get into my works in progress. So the first work in progress that I have is the Town Sweater by Ozetta. It's in this bag. So the Town Sweater I am knitting with 2 of my friends who are also knitters and crocheters and crafters of the sort. So we decided to all make this sweater together. It is their first knit sweater, so we wanted to pick a pattern that was pretty beginner friendly and also affordable. So we picked out the Knit Picks worsted wool of the Andes yarn, which had a beautiful color selection, was pretty affordable, and here is my sweater so far. So the town sweater is a bottom-up construction. You work in the round bottom up until you get to the underarm, and then you split for the front and the back panels and work those flat. You do very minimal shaping when you get to the neckline. Again, it's meant for beginner knitters, so it's very simple directions, and then you Kitchener the shoulder panels together to create sort of like a seamless shoulder piece, and then you pick up stitches for the collar. It is a folded collar, as you can see here, and then you pick up stitches for the sleeve. In terms of the bottom-up construction of this sweater, it has not been my favorite process. I thought it got super fiddly when we got to the part where we had like all these different panels for the front and the back, because you start out with 2 panels for the front and the back, but then when you bind off stitches or you put stitches on hold for the collar here and you work like this little section for each shoulder, so you have like this front middle panel on a holder, you have one of the shoulder panels on a holder, you're working just this panel, all while the whole back panel is still on a holder, and then you kind of repeat that process for the back panel. Then you got to put all the stitches back on the needles for the Kitchener, so it was a lot going on. I got through it. Like, again, it wasn't difficult, but it was definitely just more annoying than per se like a top-down drop shoulder, and I understand why a top-down drop shoulder might not be the most beginner-friendly, especially if you have angled shoulders and you're doing sort of like an angular increase for each of the shoulder panels, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's less fiddly, and I definitely prefer that construction to this. That being said, I did get through all of that tricky part, and then I did the collar, so I just used a 16-inch circular needle to pick up the collar. I did the ribbing on 4.5mm needles. The rest of the body is on 5mm needles. The pattern does call for just 5mm needles for the whole sweater, including all of the ribbing. Again, I think that's supposed to be for the beginner friendliness of it. If you're on the more beginner side of knitting and you don't have a lot of needles, having a sweater pattern where you only need one size is definitely going to be more attractive than you needing to go to the store and get more needle sizes. So I just sized down so then ribbing could be a little bit neater. I'm definitely happy with that. And yeah, started the sleeve, picked up the stitches for the sleeve here. It's a pretty nice tapered sleeve. I am not done yet, as you can see here. I am working on the ribbing. Almost done with the ribbing. I'm gonna do some tubular bind off for the sleeve, which I believe is optional in the pattern, and then go on to the other sleeve. So yeah, definitely needs a block. You know, you have all of this ribbing, especially down at the end of the body. There is a ton of ribbing. This is like 4.5 or 4 inches worth of ribbing. So it's very like scrunched up on itself. It definitely makes the whole sweater scrunch up. It doesn't look that nice. Like I feel like in the finished product picture, it looks very boxy and flowy on the model, which is what we're going for. So this is definitely gonna benefit from a nice wet block. It'll help open up the collar a little bit, open up this ribbing, make everything sort of boxy and straight. So I'm excited to finish this and get this blocked. Oh, I think I forgot to mention what color. So this is the color Crane Heather from Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Worsted. It's this nice beigey, gray beige. I think it's a cool tone beige and has some nice heathering. And yeah, that's this sweater here. I'm also in the middle of a sock project. These are a pair of socks for Nick. They are vanilla socks. I'm following the Crazy Sock Lady vanilla socks pattern, which I have used before. This is with a US size 1 needle, that's 2.25 millimeters. I like to use the 9-inch circulars, and I have done 72 stitches for this vanilla sock. This is with a self-striping yarn. I'm using Lion Brand's Sock Ease in the color Dark and Stormy, which is right here. So it has a lot of olive and cream and navy and sort of like a light blue. And I didn't know when I started this project that this yarn was self-striping. I thought it was going to be more of like a variegated style, but when I started knitting it, it was pretty obvious that we were getting these like very big stripes. That was fun. You know, it's adding some interesting stripes to the pattern. For the contrast heel, I'm using some leftover Hobie Rainbow 4-ply sock yarn, which is their sort of workhorse sock yarn comes in a whole rainbow of colors, hence the name. I think this is just called the color navy. If you have a good eye, you can see that this navy is actually a different navy from what's in the striping yarn. I'm just going with it. It's not perfect. From afar, I don't think you can tell that much. The Hobie yarn is a little bit brighter than the Lion brand navy, which is a little bit more muted. I also did that on the toe here. This is just your basic slip stitch heel flap. So this sock is completely done. I haven't even casted on the second sock yet, but that's next on the docket for this project. I have been having some sizing issues with socks for Nick. I originally had planned on making him a pair a while ago. I had just used a 64 stitch cast on and it was way too tight. I feel like there's a lot of issue with getting the cuff like over the ankle part, and I even find that with my knit socks too. So I don't know if this is a common thing, but getting over the ankle is like very difficult, like almost to the point where I'm like afraid that it's going to rip because it's so stretched. But once it's like on the foot, once you get past that, it fits really nicely and really hugs everything. So I don't know if that's just something that's supposed to happen with socks, especially if they're on the tighter side, that you have a difficult time putting them on, or if they truly are still too small. So with 72 stitches, we still had some difficulty getting it over the ankle of Nick's foot, but it did get on, and once it was on, it had like that nice form-fitting hugging feel. So I think it'll work, and obviously these haven't been washed, and I think they do grow just a little bit once you soak them in water and block them. So I will update you guys once I finish the second sock and have Nick wear them for like a day, and he'll give feedback on how they feel. Okay, my next project there's a lot to talk about. It's really fun. So I have been working on an Icelandic cardigan called Uppbót as part of a knitting class with one of my local yarn stores. I'm attending the class and we are knitting this cardigan together. So this is an Icelandic style colorwork cardigan. Trying to keep it from falling off the needles, but there is a lot going. Oh my gosh, literally falling apart as I'm talking to you guys. All right, I'm gonna hold the needles like this. So this is Uppbót. It is knit with Lopi's Alafos Lopi, which is their bulky weight Icelandic wool. This is one of the colors here that I'm using. It's this beautiful gray heather. This is one of my accent colors, as well as this ash heather, which is like this nice white heather with some black fibers mixed in there. And then my main color is this indigo blue here. So this is my progress on the cardigan so far. And there has been a lot since last time I showed this to you guys. Last time I showed this to you guys, I was working on the body in the round. I think I was maybe like at this point here. I had just gotten into some of the color work. So I have since finished the color work, and we got through the body, which was a lot of just plain stockinette in the solid color. And then I put those stitches aside and I had to start the sleeves here. So because this is bottom up, the sleeves are knit separately and then attached. So you obviously can tell I've already gotten to the attaching point, which I'll speak about in a few minutes. But we'll talk about the sleeves first. So these sleeves are knit from the cuff all the way to the underarm. So we have the nice 1x1 ribbed cuff, and then the color work pattern, which is actually the same color work pattern as the body here. So there was this color work pattern and then just some stockinette while you were doing some increases to widen that circumference of the sleeve as you went along. So I did one sleeve, put the stitches on hold, and then did the second sleeve the exact same way. So I had 3 separate parts. I had the body and 2 sleeves, and I just had my second class for the cardigan yesterday where we put all of those pieces together. Now that's something in knitting I've never done before. I've never done bottom up where the sleeves and the body are all connected in the round, and then you work the yoke in a circular fashion from there. So there was a lot of fiddliness. Basically, you just get a really long circular needle and you knit some of the body stitches, and then you go and knit some of the sleeve stitches, all but like a small section of what goes on the underarm, and then you continue around the body. Let me try and like visualize. Also, I'm a left-handed knitter, so this direction might seem opposite to you guys, but basically I knit this part here onto the big circular needle. I then took my sleeve stitches, I knit around the sleeve, and then I put some of the sleeve stitches on hold as well as some of the body stitches on hold, which you can see this giant hole here. Then I continued around the back, and then I did the next sleeve, again, skipped some stitches, put them on hold, and then worked all the way around to the front of the body. Now everything is on one needle. You have some stitches that are being held, just some scrap yarn that I have. And now I'm just working the next chart of the pattern. So this has a beautiful colorwork yoke. It'll be worked in the round with some decreases as you go up towards the neckline. And then I will finish with the ribbed collar. Now this cardigan is steeked, which I'm very excited to try out. So you'll notice it's being knit in the round. And I have 2 purl stitches that go down the middle here. This is where it's going to be steeked. So we got lots of instruction from the teacher yesterday on the steeking process. Our next class is in about a month, and the homework is to finish knitting the yoke, to block it, to sew down the steeking reinforcements with a sewing machine, and then to actually steek it. Steeking is super scary. I've never done it before, but I'm also really excited at the same time to try it out. I feel like I have confidence in it and I'm not too scared because I am going to be using a sewing machine to make a reinforcement. And I don't know, I just have a lot of confidence in that sewn reinforcement. Yeah, I don't know. This is a bulky weight yarn and I'm going to do pretty small sewed stitches. So I feel like there's really not much that could come undone once this is sewed down with sewing thread. My teacher of the class has already done it. She took some videos of her doing it and she showed them to us at the last class. So we actually got to see her virtually do it, which was pretty like confidence boosting knowing that she had done it too and it worked out fine. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep you guys up to date with that process. Going to take lots of videos when that comes up in the next month. In terms of color work, I'm enjoying it. You guys, if you follow me, you know I don't do a whole lot of color work projects, so this is definitely something new to me. I had a pretty good time doing the body color work. When I did the sleeves, I did have to do magic loop because of the small sleeve circumference, and I had some tension issues with the magic loop, especially at like where the needle swaps. So my sleeves aren't perfect. Just like looking them from afar, it might be easy to tell that there's like some bumpiness just from uneven tension. In fact, one of the sleeves, the first sleeve I did is worse than the second sleeve. I think this is the first sleeve and I think this is the second sleeve. I don't know if you guys can see a difference. Maybe I'm lying. Is this one the first one? I can't tell. One of the sleeves I can tell before that it was pretty lumpy with the color work. Knowing that this is like one of my first color work projects, I'm giving myself some grace. I didn't feel like undoing it and redoing it to make it perfect. You know, I think it still looks pretty good, so we're just gonna go with that. Also, gauging like the length of things when it's bottom up I find are really difficult. When I had the body done to the length that it's specified in the pattern, I thought it looked short. There also was no schematic in the pattern for like the body went up to like, it goes to some point below the underarm, but there's no schematic to tell me like how much distance from my underarm it should go up to. I feel like that would have been helpful. I did try it on. I'm bummed because I meant to take some video of me trying on these 3 pieces separately while looking ridiculous and show you guys, you know, the sleeves come up to like here and then like the body part comes up here, which means they all get connected with some ease at the underarm for the colorwork yoke. But unfortunately I didn't get that on video, so you'll just have to take my word for it. But yeah, I think it's gonna fit fine. Luckily it's a cardigan, so it could be worn like unbuttoned if the fit is really weird, but hopefully it'll work well for my size. I think just holding it up, I think it looks like it's gonna fit pretty well. I didn't want to be too long. Like I think it's gonna hit at about like right above my hip for length, which is what I want. So we'll see how that turns out as I knit it up. All right, so I'm really excited to share my next work in progress with you guys because if you watched last podcast, I was talking about how I had no motivation to work on this. Well, surprise, I have made great progress on my oversized seasons cardigan. Ta-da! Can you guys see that I finished the body? I literally can't believe it. So I just had this like spur of motivation to work on this cardigan. I think it was after I filmed the last podcast and I was like, man, I really don't want to work on this. But I filmed that and then I posted it and then I was like, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to turn myself around and make myself enjoy this project. So I really just need to get through the body. I feel like the body was a slog for me. So I made it all the way down to the 4th button, and I have just like little markers here to show where the buttons are gonna go. I did make this like an inch shorter than it was supposed to be because I wanted to be done with the body, and I also didn't want it to be too long in general. In fact, I probably would have made it shorter overall, but because you work the button band at the same time as the cardigan, you like evenly space out the buttonholes as you go. So I had already done the first two buttons to the spacing specified in the pattern. And once you have that, it's pretty much set. And like if you wanted to adjust the length, you would either end up with uneven buttonholes or you would have to frog back. So I didn't have the ability to make it that much shorter, except for when I got to the last buttonhole, it said like 2 inches past the last buttonhole, but I just did 1 inch, which I think will be fine. So, I forgot to mention. So this is the Oversized Seasons Cardigan pattern by Ozetta. This is a, I believe, either Aran weight or bulky weight half fisherman's rib cardigan. It's really cute. I started it last September with the intentions of having it done way sooner than now. But like I said before, I think spring is going to be like my cardigan season because I really like having layering pieces. Sometimes in the spring you want an extra layer in the morning, but then it gets too hot in the afternoon. So it's always nice to have something that you can take off and still have like a t-shirt or tank top underneath. So I was motivated to finish this also because I want to wear it this spring. So you can see here that I have started the first sleeve. Just like with the town sweater and the Uppbót cardigan, I've been just working on sleeves for the past couple weeks. You know, they say Sleeve Island, but I feel like I'm more in Sleeve City with this amount of sleeves. Yeah, I've been working on the sleeves. With the half fisherman's rib, you have sort of like a interesting decrease. This is a tapered sleeve, so you have to do decreases. I'll just show you guys them. I don't think they're the prettiest, and I'm not saying that's like a pattern thing. I think that's just the nature of half fisherman's rib. It's like difficult to make pretty decreases, but that's like the decrease line. It does go like under the arm, which isn't really that visible. I think it just looks really interesting also from the side profile. It kind of looks like stair steps, and it's not really like, it's not a slight taper. There's like some obvious decreasing, but again, this is under the arm, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. I am knitting this cardigan with Lana Grossa Cool Merino. This is a chainette merino yarn. It's 90% merino and 10% nylon. It's the color gray, so it has this slight gray variation throughout, which I think makes a really nice fabric for this half fisherman's rib. It's super cozy and stretchy and like plump. Like in terms of squish factor, if you like squish factor in knitting, this cardigan has the most squish. So again, that's also motivating me to finish it. Like it's gonna be a really nice finished product. So I'm glad that I got through the body. Again, working on the sleeves, this first half of the first sleeve went by pretty quickly. So I mean, I'm almost done, which is crazy. That's like the other benefit of having a button band being knit at the same time. It's like no finishing steps except for adding buttons. I have not picked out buttons for these yet. I don't really know what kind of buttons I want yet. I can't decide if like black, like a solid black button would look really nice with this, or some sort of white button, or maybe even like a mother of pearl. I'm gonna wait until this is completely finished and then like bring this with me to the craft store to button shop so I can really like put the buttons on top of the finished piece and see how they look, and then I'll show you guys when it's all done. So my next work in progress is something you guys haven't seen before because I just started it within the past 2 weeks, and I decided to do sort of like an ongoing crochet blanket inspired by Nitty Natty, who just finished her big crochet granny square blanket with a bunch of her sock yarn scraps. I was just feeling really inspired to do the same, especially because I had this row 1 yarn in my stash and I wasn't really sure what to do with it. So I was gifted this row 1 yarn box. They do monthly boxes where they send you 10-gram mini skeins from a hand dyer. The hand dyer is different every month and the yarns you get are a surprise. So I had all of these minis and I knew I didn't really want to do like a sock with them, because if you were to use all of them for a pair of socks, you would have to do some sort of like striping or color work. And I don't know, because they're all variegated yarns, I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to use them in a way where each of the colorways would shine on their own. So I found out that Nitty Natty's granny squares that she used for her granny square blanket only used like 6 to 8 grams of fingering weight yarn. And I was like, wow, that sounds perfect for these 10-gram minis. So I have made a bunch of crochet granny squares, which I never thought I would do. This is totally new to me, but I've been really enjoying it. And I think it's also part of the spring. I don't know what it is, but when the weather is warm, I have like this urge to crochet. I don't really have the urge in the winter that much, but in the spring and summer, I go like crochet crazy and sometimes crochet more than I knit. I have crocheted through all of these minis from the row 1 yarn box. Yeah, I'm just going to show off each of the squares. So I'm using a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter hook. This was the very first one that I made. This is not from the row 1 yarn box, but this is from some scrap sock yarn that I had from East Coast Yarn Co. in the color Oh My Gourd. So this is the very first square I made while following along the tutorial video that Nitty Natty has on her channel. And you can see it's really like open and big, and then my squares got way smaller over time. So I think I have these in chronological order of when I made them. So this is the first one, the second one. I'm just gonna show you guys. They're getting smaller. So I had switched hooks like halfway through because I was using the Susan Bates like inline hook. I just picked this up at Joann, and I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy it. I thought it was hard on the hands. It was like snagging the yarn a little bit. I just wanted a different hook. So I bought a pack of the Clover Amour hooks here, which I have one of these that I'm using for a different project, and I've really enjoyed it. So I decided just to get the whole pack, which included this. So this is a 3.25 millimeter hook again, and the Clover Amour like ergonomic handle. It's this really smooth like aluminum rounded hook, and I've been liking this so much better. So I think changing the hooks affected my gauge, and also just like getting back into crochet and like knowing how to tension my stitches ended up in squares that were dramatically different in size. So this is the most recent one I made, and this is the very first one I made. They are not the same size at all. So I may frog the first couple squares I made, redo them just so they're all more of a similar size. I will want to block these too. I'm thinking maybe block them in batches as I go. So like I said before, this is going to be an ongoing crochet project with scrap yarn. I'm not planning on purchasing any yarn specifically for this blanket. I'm just going to use sock yarn scraps as I come across them, and whenever I have enough to make a blanket, I will put them all together, which could be in a year, could be in a few years, who knows. But I think the granny squares are a really nice way to show off the hand-dyed yarn compared to like a stripy blanket, whether it be a striped knit blanket or a striped crochet blanket. I feel like when you have the very long strips of each color, you're not really focusing on each color yarn, you're focusing more on the product as a whole and that whole striping effect. And I really wanted to show off each of these yarns, so I think these individual squares really do the trick. I even picked out a few favorites from this like sampler box that I thought were really cool. Like this color Fruit Punch, super cute. And again, like I would not personally wear these in my own wardrobe. That's just like my personal style. These are just a little bit too bright and too variegated for me, but they're just so fun to work with and so cute to look at in a little square. So I think a blanket project is really going to show off these colors. This color Malibu Barbie, super pretty, little less in your face variegation, but just like really cute colors. Sea Breeze, I'm absolutely loving Sea Breeze. This one is in stock in the Dyer is Charming You on her website. And I'm like, should I get a skein of this? I don't know, to knit a hat with. There's one other color I really liked. Oh yeah, this one here. This is the color Wedding Crasher. Also really pretty with all those purples and light blues and sort of pale green, I think is hidden in there. So yeah, I'm in the middle of one square right now. This was like my very last mini from the bag. So yeah, these are just gonna like sit in storage. I'll add to them as I go, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Fun little crochet project going on. Those granny squares didn't take up like all of the yarn that I had from each colorway in the sampler bag, so I still have all these scraps. I think I may make like a yarn cozy or like a can cozy with these, probably in a striping manner since I only have like a few grams left. But yeah, really fun. This also has kind of like converted me to the fingering 2-ply. I know before in a podcast, I think I said that I prefer 4-ply, and I think they have different applications. Like the 2-ply sock yarn is like very plump and round, and I think it shows up really nicely in the granny square. I'll just show you guys this up close. But yeah, I've really been enjoying the 2-ply for the crochet granny squares. I have knit a few socks with 2-ply sock yarn before. I've also knit with some 4-ply sock yarns. They both, I feel like the end result is like the same. The 2-ply has a little bit more squish factor, and sometimes I found the 2-ply to be a little bit more splitty when knitting, but again, that could have been just me and like my tension or maybe my needles. So yeah, I'm excited to work with more different kinds of sock yarns and see what I like, don't like, and find out what applications they're good for. Whew. All right, so that's all that I'm working on right now for works in progress, which you can see the numbers dwindling, and I'm definitely in a clear the needles kind of mood. I think with the end of the season of winter and the beginning of spring, I definitely want like a clean slate for spring knits. And I kind of felt that last year too, like at the end of the year in December. I was kind of bummed that I hadn't cleared the needles, but that was on me. I never planned to clear my needles by the end of December, but I could tell that if I had, I would have really enjoyed like those fresh January New Year cast-ons. So I think maybe that might be something that I want to do seasonally, is kind of like frame my knitting into seasons, and when a season ends, I would have sort of like a clean slate so I'm ready to cast on new projects at the beginning of the next season. I haven't been too much of like a knitting planner in terms of like what projects are going to be long term. I definitely tend to just knit what I'm inspired to knit at any given point in time. So I'm excited to try sort of more like structure with that whole seasonal timing thing. So I'm going to try to finish these projects within the next few weeks. Finishing them by the end of March would be a bit ambitious, but I'm going to try to get as close as I can as possible so April can be the true beginning of my spring season knits. With that being said, a spring planning video is coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to talk too much about that in this video, but heads up, it's coming for you. With that being said, we're gonna get into some acquisitions and what I'm planning on knitting next. All right, so I got these 2 yarns from Birch and Lily Fiber Co. She had an update a few weeks ago, and you guys know I love purple, so I just had to get these skeins of sock yarn. So these are Birch sock, which is an 80-20 sock yarn, so you get 400 yards per 100 grams. This is the color Euphoria. I'll show you this one first. It's just a beautiful, like super light purple base with all these beautiful speckles, mostly dark purple speckles, but you can see there's also some sort of like greenish speckles in there. I just thought this was like gorgeous. This is also a 2-ply yarn, so it's very plump and squishy. And then I also got this color Serendipity, which is a tonal. It's the same Birch sock base, 80-20. And yeah, it's just this beautiful tonal purple. And my plan for these is to make some socks. So I don't have exact patterns in mind, but I do want to make some sort of colorwork sock with this speckled base color and then have this tonal purple as like the accent color. And then I also want to make a pair of sort of textured socks with what's left of this yarn. So Birch and Lily Fiber Co. is going to be linked below. Amanda, the owner of the company, also has a YouTube knitting podcast channel that I watch, so I'll link that below too. So yeah, very excited to knit these up. Really eager to start these socks, but I gotta finish Nick's socks first, even though I'm not that motivated to do his second sock. Feeling some second sock syndrome with there, but hopefully these will motivate me to finish his socks so I can get these on the needles ASAP. But yeah, they're just so cute together too. They pair really nicely, so I'm excited. All right, so while I was at the yarn store yesterday for my knitting class, I wanted to pick up a skein of hand-dyed sock yarn to knit the Musselburgh hat. The Musselburgh hat is a pattern by Isolde Teague. It is pretty infamous, like it has over 12,000 projects on Ravelry, which is wild. And it can be knit in any yarn from from like fingering to DK weight. It's sort of like a gaugeless pattern, which I don't really know how that works yet, but I'm excited to try it out. People like it because it's a beanie knit from the top down, but then you keep knitting the tube and then you do the other end, you close it like a hat. So you have like this huge long double-ended beanie that you like fold in on itself. So it's double layered and it's a great stash buster because it only uses one skein. If you do the fingering weight, it uses one skein of fingering weight yarn. And I haven't shared this yet on the channel, but I'm traveling in a few weeks. I'm gonna be going to Florida with my husband Nick and my sister. We're gonna go to Disney World for a few days. So I was thinking that I wanted like a good knitting project to knit while I was in line for all of the rides at Disney World, because if you've been, you might know that sometimes the lines can get very long. So I knew I wanted something portable and small, but also mindless that I could work on while still talking to my sister and my husband, and also being able to like pay attention to my surroundings and also be able to put it away at like a moment's notice if I need to. So I thought the Musselburgh would be a great project for that. I'm planning on starting the crown and getting past the crown before I go on the trip, so that way when I get there, I just am working in the round stockinette for days. So that was a really long intro to say that I picked up this skein of fingering weight sock yarn at my local yarn store yesterday for the Musselburgh hat. So this is Dirty Water Dye Works, which is a Boston-based dyeing company, and this is their Lucia fingering, which is 75/25 sock yarn. This is 100 gram skein. You get 464 yards. This is the color Sprinkles. So it's got this beautiful white base with purple, green, and blue speckles, and it was half off, which is part of the reason why I picked it up. I mean, it's really cute. I really like it. It's definitely like my vibe. I think it'll look really cute in the Musselburgh beanie. And yeah, at half off, I couldn't pass up the deal. So I picked up this skein as well as the needles that I needed for the project, which include a 16-inch circular. I got the US size 2, and then I also needed the 40-inch for magic loop for both the increase and decrease crown. So yeah, Chiago red lace. I love these needles. They're my go-to if I need fixed circulars. Otherwise, I use my Knitter's Pride interchangeable set. So we are ready to go for the Musselburgh. I will probably cast this on not soon, but maybe like in a week or two, like so the crown can be ready before I go. We'll keep you updated on that. I do also have one other project to discuss in terms of future plans, although this is kind of part of my spring knitting plans video. Just wanted to share with you guys that I'm participating in the Sewrella Spring Make-Along. So I'm super excited. I saw this make-along, really tempted to do it. The thing is, I didn't have any yarn in stash for the two projects. If you're unfamiliar with the make-along, Sewrella has two spring patterns that are out now. One is the Provence sweater, which is knit. It is a Surrey lace knit circular yoke sweater, which creates this beautiful like oversized blousey spring sweater. There's also a crochet pattern, which is the Marseille. No, it's not the Marseille. Oh, the Mariniere. Mariniere? Mariniere? Oh my gosh, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Mariniere.
I took French for a long time. From kindergarten through 8th grade, I took French. So if my French teacher is watching, which I don't think she is, I apologize for not being able to pronounce that anymore. But the crochet sweater is a beautiful striped sweater in their bamboo sock yarn. The Provence sweater is in their Surrey lace yarn. You don't have to use their yarn for the make-along, but you do have to do one of those two patterns. I didn't have the yarn for any of those, so I was like, well, I guess I can buy more yarn. So I ordered the Provence sweater kit in the color Toile, which is this beautiful, very light blue in the Surrey lace. It's just this, I think it's just going to be a beautiful spring piece. I've been thinking about how I need some more lightweight long sleeve sweaters for the spring. So I ordered the kit. The yarn hasn't come in yet, but of course I'll show you guys when it does. I'm excited to participate and knit that up. I believe the make-along starts on April 3rd and it's about 5 weeks. So it's a little bit over a month to knit the sweater. There is some great prizes for the make-along, like one prize that I'm really interested in is 12 skeins of dyed yarn from any colorway in the Sewrella Vault, like it's a custom order. You just tell them what colorway you want from any of their past collections and they'll dye it up for you. The grand prize is like a trip out to the yarn studio to get all these behind the scenes tours and insights into their process. I'm like, wow. So yeah, those prizes aside, I'm still gonna really enjoy knitting this sweater. I haven't knit with Surrey lace before. I believe it's a Surrey silk blend. So I'm super excited to get that yarn, use it for the first time, and also wear that sweater. That's the Sewrella make along. That's probably gonna be my next cast on, along with some other spring projects once I finish all of the whips that I shared with you guys today. So that's everything that I have to share with you guys for today's podcast. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Just want to let you know that I'm on Instagram as well as here on YouTube. So if you enjoy these videos, feel free to subscribe as well as follow me on Instagram. I'll put my handle down below so you guys can find me. Like I said before, everything I talked about today is in the links below in the description of the video. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.